Hey yo, it's your boy Monster Man Rocco.
It's your boy Swagger Rock.
This is Snack the Ripper.
And you rap for those who don't know.
This is Master Ace. You are now rocking with the best. Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records, man.
Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records.
Breaking Records.
Breaking Records Radio. Let's go.
Breaking Records Radio.
Press 5 now. How you check Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records, man. Radio is like the place to be. I don't fuck strange music, dude.
Are those on specialty art for one reason or another?
Nah, so what you got back there is the other one up? Yeah, you got Aaliyah and Left Eye. Those were vibe covers. My wife wanted to get those covers blown up, just to honor those two female artists that she admired. That we've had those for a long time. Never really found a good place to hang them up because they're pretty huge, but.
Yeah.
You know, now we just use them as backdrops. My wife does her podcast from here, so we always keep those up for her.
Oh, really? She does a podcast, eh?
Yeah. She's it's called The Shay Show. It comes on every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and she just talks about what's going on in the industry, birthdays, and different controversial topics that happen in the music industry, and she just gives her opinion on what's going on. She has a co-host, and they do a pretty good job, man.
Have they been able to continue? I guess if they're shooting in the crib, they're able to continue doing it during all this.
Well, what they had to convert, because we used to, normally the co-host would come here, and we would shoot it live on Periscope and on Facebook Live. But since he's home, we're home. The last 5 weeks, we're up to the 5th episode of doing it via IG Live, just like how me and you are doing it right now.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what? That's the thing. Like, as much as this whole COVID thing sucks, I think that's one great thing we'll take away from it is it'll give creatives, new ideas and new opportunities and different ways to be able to create and, use these platforms to their advantage. I think it's cool. I've been seeing a lot of interviews on the IG Live, stuff like that. A lot of podcasts becoming more interactive because they're using live platforms and stuff like that. And I think it'll be a really cool, I'm looking forward to see how these things get utilized in the future moving forward when everything kind of goes back to normal.
Yeah, me too. We'll see. I really want to, I'm trying to figure out in my head when, performing in venues with packed venues, when is that coming back? Everybody seems to think no time soon, which is unfortunate. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like an artist like yourself, I know, like you're constantly on the road, you're constantly overseas. So it's got to have a huge effect on like what you do. An artist like of the same in the same magnitude that make a lot of their bread and butter from actually touring and stuff.
Well, to when you really look at it, a good majority of the artists, that's where they make most of their money. Most don't make a lot of money on record sales like that,
Yeah.
And a lot of these artists, they get these big advances for their albums that they have to recoup before they ever see a dime. And if somebody gives you $1.5 million up front, and depending on your lifestyle, that money could be gone in a couple of years if you really being extravagant with it, buying a whole bunch of crazy cars and jewelry and a crib in LA, a crib in New York. You start doing all that stuff, and you normally, if you're doing shows, those artists, big artists like that, they might make 50 grand on the show. But when you're not doing shows, when there's no shows popping off at all, your overhead is still your overhead. Your expenses are still your expenses, and you're not getting those $50,000 shows coming in every single or a couple times a month. It changes the landscape a little bit for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And you've always you've always seemed like somebody who's got a good grip of things. Good head on his shoulders, kind of knows how to keep yourself in order and take control. You know what I mean? Like, you're well in control of yourself. But there's a lot of artists out here who are living like minimum wage workers, check to check. You know what I mean? Like they'll blow through money, take a show when they need money again, or a string of shows. And kind of like live the same way, you know, like people that work check to check just for some company or something. So, you know, it's you know, it's kind of this cold reality that, you know, because it's like, I don't know if you're familiar with Classified. He's a artist from up here in Canada, but he's a really dope artist. But one day, in one of his tracks, he says, this industry don't come with benefits, so I'm saving for a rainy day and trying to stay ahead of it. And I always love that line, you know what I mean? Because I think that's something a lot of artists don't do. Like, you take me as the kind of dude who would have your shit in order, but I can't imagine what it's like for some of these cats who are, you know, literally like check to check, blowing their money on the club and all this stuff every week, and, you know, like haven't been able to make revenue, at least the same kind of revenue, for over a month now. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, once my wife and I bought this house, that became a whole different conversation. You know, I gave up the sneakers, and the clothes. Just the stuff I would normally spend money on. All that stuff had to be given up because the priority became, you know, making sure we had a roof over our head and that our daughter was fed, and everything else didn't matter to me. I can't tell you last time I went out and like bought clothing for myself. Like, I'm gonna go buy me some sneakers and an outfit. Like, I can't tell you the last time I did that. It had to be over 10 years.
yeah. And actually, now that you say that too, when I do see, you know, anytime I see, I've seen you live or live performances, or even when we met up last year in New York to do the interview. And, you know, anytime I see you, basically, you're either rocking your own merch, or like when you're in the studio that day, you're rocking somebody you knew's merch. You're like, actually, I got to get you to get a picture of me. I told him I'd take a picture of this. So
Yeah, I definitely, I would say half the clothing that I have is stuff people gave me, freebies or whatever, and the other half is stuff that my wife just bought without asking me. Like, yo, I just bought you this hoodie and this sweatsuit. You know, do you like it? If I like it, I keep it. If I'm like, nah, I don't really like it, she just take it back. Like, she just randomly look. She's a big fashionista anyway. I call her my stylist. You know, so I wear free clothes, and then I wear clothes that my wife picks out. That's pretty much it.
that's dope, though, man. I like it because, you know, a lot of times artists, or, you know, just people creating brand stuff will give artists, you know, merch and clothes with the hopes that they might rock it. And a lot of times, you know, just it passes their hand and just goes somewhere else and never gets looked at again. But I think that's really cool that you actually
shout to 2520. I'm rocking their hat right now. They gave me a bunch of nice hats.
Oh, dope.
And I got just merch. It's merch. This is a Juice Crew reunion tour shirt on. So pretty much what you just said.
Hey.
My own merch and stuff people gave me.